truly a testament to the Cove.
Yep.
I've got 4 generations of Browns and Meltons that lived and died right here. Not a lot of people just up and left this place, and you can probably see why. You're surrounded by friends and kinfolks. You got fertile farmland, you got a river, fish. Why would you leave? Somebody with a lot of money coming in here starting to buy up land could collapse your entire family's history, you know?
The 4 brothers that settled out here, Mr. James Brown, Allen Brown, William Brown, and Moses Brown.
If you look at it from the air, which I do all the time, it's almost a perfect circle of mountains. The only thing that breaks that circle is the Flint River, which cuts through on the east side over here, enters and exits that circle.
Moses Brown is over here in the rock foundation here, rock formation. Well, they're one of the original settlers, one of the 4 Browns, Moses and James right behind you. We're at Moses Brown homestead. Best we can figure, we guessed it was built about 1832.
We're here today in the Cove with Steve Melton, Mr. Roland Brown. Steve and Mr. Roland, they are descended from the original families that settled here. Steve and Mr. Roland are going to give us a little bit of explanation about the history of the Cove, which was settled here on the banks of the Flint River shortly after this land was opened up to settlement.
If my dad was still alive, we wouldn't do this. The people here are all my kinfolks, and they're very private people. And what we're going to go down and see, please don't come and try it. The folks are to themselves here, and it's private property, and it can be a dangerous place in here if you get in here and start doing stupid stuff. Let's see if we can get some light in here. So we're at the William Brown house now, and you can see pretty much that it's a double dovetail design, just like the Moses M. Brown house. Roland and I were talking. There is a chance that this house is slightly older than the Moses M. Brown house, but it's not in its original site. Dad told me it was originally down by the creek where the gin house was, and that some of the kids got malaria, and that the women insisted on moving this house up to get some air. And they got a team of horses and rolled it on logs up here to reposition it where it sits now. But those are the original logs there. And there was, when I was a kid, there was a dog trot right down the middle, or a hallway, whatever you want to call it. And this side of the house was essentially a museum. Aunt Lottie and Uncle Wes, I call her Aunt Lottie, she's actually my great aunt. They lived here, but they only lived in that side. This was almost like a museum with couches and just old pictures and stuff, but I wasn't even allowed to go in there. So they figured I'd break something, you know?
Yeah.
But we'll go upstairs now, and I'll show you what the roof materials are made out of. It's pretty interesting. To find a light switch up here.
There you go, Stephen.
Yeah, that'll at least help me find a switch, I think.
If there's one up there.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure there's one up here. We might just have
Are you going up to?
Yes, I'll be back.
Here you go.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Robert, stay on these boards when you get up here, buddy. All right, because if you step off of them, you're going through the roof. All right. Yeah. So the floor is pretty secure in this area. So you can see there's 2 large rooms up here. This one we won't step into because it's nothing but wallboard. But look at how the ceiling was constructed. They took really about 3 to 4 inch saplings and stripped them and covered the roof with hand-hewn boards.
Yeah.
Wow. And you can see this room is a huge room, but it's done the same. Those are just stripped trees. And it looks like they had a size they preferred because it's all the same size, you know.
Right. And would this would have been living quarters up here too, right?
You know, I don't know, Roland. Do you know if they ever lived up here?
I'm sure they did because William had, I don't know the exact number of William's kid, but he had a lot of kids too.
Yeah, yeah.
I was looking at the fact that it's actually got floorboards here, and that's square nails too, so that's pretty cool.
This, I'm sure they did have some kids up here. In fact, they probably had them one in each corner.
Yeah.
You know how that goes. But in my lifetime, no one ever lived even up here or this side of the house over here. On this side was where all the living quarters was, and the kitchen's over in that corner there.
Gotcha.
There's another fireplace on that side too. You can see the rock on it there.
I see it, yeah.
All right.
Mind if I just walk over here real quick?
Yes, sir. Dirt daubers certainly have made a home of it.
And there again, the saplings.
Yep.
That's incredible.
You can see the size of those crossboards right there, and you can even see the marks where they used a draw saw on it, a
They
knife.
called it a foot ass.
Foot ass.
Foot ass is like a axe, crossways axe that they chopped those logs with.
Just shape the logs
Right,
with it.
Yeah, I got one up at the Broke House laying on the shelf.
And we're thinking that this house is 1830.
About the same time, between
Yeah.
probably 1830 and 1832.
Gotcha.
About the same time frame as the other house we were just at. All right, boys. We'll
All
start
right,
the
boys.
perilous journey downward.
Don't step on the end of the board, it'll flip.
Yep.
Yeah. Get the fat boy, get down.
Well, it's not an easy maneuver for me either.
So our next stop is underneath the house.
Well, all my life I had heard about a house in the Cove that had a pit underneath it, or what they used to call, they just said there's a cave under that house. I'd heard of that for years and years. Well, 16 years ago, I was invited to see what we're about to see here. And I was invited by Mr. Roland. And Roland and me and our friend Bobby Smith went down here and saw this thing. And ever since then, and ever since Robert came up with Sidestep Adventures, I have wanted Robert and his viewers to see this because it's a one-of-a-kind place, especially for this area. And it's taken me years to get around to making the arrangements to come here. It took me 2 years to get around to telling Joy about it, and it took Joy about 2 hours to get permission from him to come here.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
It is. So it wound up that Joy knew you and your wife, and she was able to call you and
She grew up with my wife,
Yeah.
and we're in Seattle having dinner, and she mentioned Taylor County and Meriwether County and Talbot County. I'm like, wait a minute, Meriwether, what do you know about that? And she said, well, I have some relatives from the Cove. And I'm like, all right, we can just stop, because we're going to end up being kin. Just let me get back to the hotel and get to a computer. And I called her about an hour later. I asked my wife, I said, what's her maiden name? She said, Kersey. I typed it in, and there she was, bigger than life, right in my family tree, including her husband and her 2 daughters.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
found you, girl.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's neat that she gets to come see part of her history,
Well,
too.
well, I am so grateful that you have allowed us to come out here and see this. and I think you have a little something you want to say to,
Yeah,
the general public about this.
If my dad was still alive, we wouldn't do this. The people here are all my kinfolks, and they're very private people. And what we're going to go down and see, please don't come and try it. The folks are to themselves here, and it's private property, and it can be a dangerous place in here if you get in here and start doing stupid stuff. So just ask you to respect their privacy, please.
There are people who live in the house today.
Yes,
residents.
the house is occupied. All right.
No, after you. I've already been.
Go ahead, Joey.
Go.
Now, it is a little wet down there.
I don't think I'm it.
There you go. I'll pass you that, so that's okay. Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You gotta let you use that since you're one we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going down there. Hold my hand. Get my balance. I get there, get this hand. Okay, I got it.
Whoa, wow. So,
Can you see that it says the pit?
okay, so when we were first looking at this, I thought it was just this dugout. Did not realize it was this.
Yeah, this is, not many people know about this, although they will now, but.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Can I see the light just a second? I want
Yes,
to show Robert something. Did you see the carving of the?
This right here.
Hang on.
Pit.
It said pit.
That's amazing.
Uh-oh. I might pass you this.
There used to be wooden stairs going down in there, and they have rotted away.
Soft down here, isn't it?
Here you go,
Oh, dirt is washed in here.
Stephen.
Sir.
I'm going to pass you light and the camera.
The camera, okay.
Yeah, while I make this step here, so I hold on to something. Got it. Wow.
Have you ever had your picture taken in the pit?
I got a picture, I got a video of the pit.
Oh, you did, but with your showing you inside of it?
No, probably not show me because I was holding the camera.
Look at this. It was crazy.
So you can imagine
And
the sheer amount of storage they could put down here and keep it halfway fresh, you know, nice and cool.
Yeah. This is incredible.
I think it's 16 by 14, but I believe that's the measurements I made. I ain't got my ruler with me now. But it seems like that's what I remember measuring.
That is carved out of hard red Georgia clay.
What was the wooden structure in here? Shelves, probably, right?
Yeah, they had pretty deep shelves in here.
Well, I have been a little stuff hid under here. Look at that.
That's some probably handmade pottery
yeah.
from
It's a
Upson
clay
County,
pot.
don't you think?
Yeah, I have a couple of them. I'm sure you do, Roland. I've got a couple of those.
Yeah, I got one that they made a lamp out of.
And there's an old shoe. It's got a few years on it.
Oh, yeah.
Sure enough.
That's where they kept the potatoes and onions and stuff like that. We keep in the cool through the winter. And of course, the wine they store it down here in those pot little jugs.
I have a handmade piece of pottery over at Dad's house that's got Pete's wine in it. It's
Sure.
blueberry wine that Pete made. Yeah. Still got a cork stopper in it. That's an old Brogan.
Yeah, you had a pair of them, you wore the heels off, you take them and they put another heel on them, wear them some more.
You can see the sheer amount of work, though, that they had to do to carve this place out.
Yeah.
It took a lot of manpower.
This is absolutely incredible. First of all, it's cooler down here than it is up there, of course. But to see this under this house, definitely wasn't expecting it.
Just for architectural interest, you can see that they elevated the whole house on these flat rocks. That no part of the house touches the ground. We had to shore it up a few years ago with those jacks, but it's the whole house is on those flat rock pillars, and these are just stripped trees.
Oh, sure enough.
You can see where they just stripped the bark. And there are some main beams over here that are hand hewn, like this one. This is a giant hand hewn log, but the rest are just stripped trees that they chopped. You can see how they put a four-side cube square and just inserted it into this main beam. That's what's holding this floor up. That's why it's never probably going to go anywhere.
Yeah, no doubt.
And you notice that they underpinned this pit here, this cellar with rock all the way around to there. But on the other side, the back of the house, they never did do that. It was done later with cinder blocks.
Yeah.
Well, let's take one last look. So you take care of the cemetery too?
Yes, sir.
And this is the William Brown Cemetery?
William Brown Cemetery,
Who built?
the William Brown house, brother to Moses. And that's the little headstones we made. We made some for Moses, gathered money to reunions, and we put the headstone on each one of the graves.
Gotcha.
This is William and his wife, and Billy Buck and his wife, and I think a kid on the other side there. And then there's also graves on the outside around. You see little rocks here standing around?
Yeah.
And all these rocks are gathered around here. They made it, around the graves. And that's all, like I say, wasn't up but rocks here. And we got those little pads made and mounted them in cement, where it'd be kept up
Yeah.
through the years.
Know who's here. That's
Right.
right. And so how are these people related to y'all?
Okay, in other words, William Brown is the father of Rebecca Brown, which was married to Williamson, who would be my great-great-grandmother. And Allen Brown Cemetery is right down here across the road, down in the woods there.
Gotcha.
And that's where Mr. Gilbert's mother and daddy and brother was the last ones that's buried there. They've been buried there in the last 10 years.
Oh, really?
Right.
And if you notice, his brother Moses had a gin as well, but it was, you know that hill you and I walked up to?
Yeah.
That was essentially where their gin house was.
Gotcha.
But they powered theirs with horses, not water. I'm trying to find a good place for us to cut in. There may not be one.
So we're still on the William Brown property. We just left the house. And what are we going to go see?
We're going to see what's called a mill race. There's a creek down in this bottom, and there's a creek down in that bottom, and up at the peak, they had a water wheel. But as I mentioned earlier, they had a problem. All the water was below the wheel. They needed to drop the water over the wheel. So what they did was they dug what's called a mill race. It's a giant ditch. We'll go down here and see it in a minute. They took the creek and they had huge, thick wooden doors that they built in a slot. They dropped those doors down and the creek would flood up into the mill race, and then it would flow all the way down over the water wheel. Wow. So pretty cool engineering. They had to move thousands of tons of dirt to build this, all done with slave labor.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine the sweat equity that went into it,
And this would have been done in what, about 18?
Around 1840,
Gotcha.
I believe. The house was well established at the time when they built it. There's still some remnants of the gin house there, but it's nothing now but nails, mostly.
Right.
All right, we'll see if we can make our way down here to it. This is where I hope everybody's got bug stuff on.
And I mean, as we're walking down here, you can really see the drop to get down to this water.
So you can picture this here. Almost any guest that I've brought hunting or traipsing around here over the years have said, man, there's some Civil War trenches down there, because
Right.
that's what it looks like. But actually it's so thick you can't see it, but the creek is just right over there where they built the giant dam board. And they would, it was on a chain. They would hoist it with a crank. And then when they got ready to run the water through the mill race, they would drop it, let it flood up into here, and it just naturally flowed around the mill race until it got over to the water wheel.
Wow.
This runs It runs for about 2,500 feet, all the way over to the tip of the
Wow.
field where I showed you, and that's where the water wheel was. And there are places where it's above my head. It's 6, 7 feet deep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Here you can see, this is just the start of it. It's not that deep here, maybe 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But we still to this day call this the gin house field because of the gin house at the end of it.
Yeah. Well, that was a whole lot of digging.
Yes, tremendous amount, because you can imagine that's, like I said, it's half a mile of trench.
Yeah.
We're coming up on an area the locals call the Alford Bottom. It's the most fertile farmland in the Cove. It flattens out as you go down toward the river. So all those years of just silt and soil being built up, it's extremely good farmland. Everybody was always envious of the Alford's land. It stretches down to the river. This is actually a little ridge that we're on, and most of the bottom moves toward the south there, parallel to the river. But the first cemetery that we visited, the Dr. Owen Cemetery, we talked about Bashi Alford. She's in there next to him. Well, her father, Isham, this is his cemetery. So this is my 3 greats-grandfather.
Gotcha.
Buried here. Bashi was my 2 greats-grandmother. Her real name was Beersheba, but they called her Bashi. I don't know if you heard Roland telling or not, but Isham had a son killed in the Civil War. And Isham had sent him a really nice pair of boots. And word got back to him that he was killed, and he said, well, we're going to go get him. So they went and retrieved his body, and they identified it by those boots that he'd sent him.
Wow.
Yep.
And he's buried here?
He is. They brought him back and buried him. But you can see how it stretches out now all the way to the south rim of the Cove. Just beautiful farmland.
Yes, it is. And this is another area where we're getting as best a view that you can get on camera, at least, of, you can kind of just follow it all around us. It's just all mountain all around us. It really,
Yeah, you can kind of see the north rim up there through the trees.
yeah.
And then the east rims, you can kind of see through those trees.
And this cemetery kind of contrasts some of the other cemeteries that we've seen where there were no markers.
Well, the Alfords were wealthier than a lot of the families in the Cove. They had money and were very resourceful folks. Well, maybe we can get just a little bit over there and you can see more of what I'm calling the bottom. But yeah, there's some ornate graves in here.
Yeah, there are.
Some of them you can't read anymore. In fact, many of them, I've tried to decipher them. You could probably get some graphite and some paper and draw them out a little bit more. But so this is the young man I was speaking of. This is Julius C. Alford. He was killed during the Civil War, and they went and got him.
Yeah.
He was 19 years old.
Look here, ye friends of southern soil, my blood poured out like Mary's oil, all for the sake of liberty.
That southern men might be free.
Isham Alford.
This is his grave here. This is Mr. Isham Alford's grave. This is his wife. She was Mary Brown. Mary Ann Brown, I believe is her name. And so these two are the parents of Bashi Alford, who basically was represented by a rock in the first cemetery we went to.
Right, wow.
Yep.
Now, I've heard that pronounced Isham, and I've also heard it pronounced Isham.
Well, I noticed today that I call it Isham, and Roland calls it Isham.
Yeah.
So, take your pick.
So this is in memory of Isham Alford, born December 21st, 1805, died April the 24th, 1867, aged 61 years, 4 months, and 3 days.
Our glorious hope
It says, "Oh, glorious
Oh,
hope
glorious hope of.
of
Gosh, I can't. Something good.
of heavenly good." I can't make
I
that
can't
out.
make that out either.
The sun is so bright I can't keep my eyes
We
open.
need to. I
out
need
here.
to come down and scrape it for you guys
Yeah.
with some graphite and paper, and we'll get it
Well,
gonculated out.
it's just the time of day that we're looking at it. Normally this little light would pick it up, but the sun is so bright out here in this August heat.
Here's an excellent view of what I referred to earlier. We call the Alford Bottom. That's some of the richest soil over in this hole, and you can see most all of the south rim there.
Okay, this is Lodowick Alford, Private Company F, 55th Georgia Infantry, Confederate States Army, born December 4th, 1843, and died July 18th, 1862. And once again, it's another slab that's almost illegible, but the detail on these box tombs is really something.
Yes,
That was
I know this.
and you know, for the time that those were placed, that was a lot of money then. And it was during a time that people really didn't have money. That's the style of the 1850s. I don't know if that's leftover monuments from the 1850s that he got after the war or what, but that traveled a long way to get here from Columbus or Macon or who knows, maybe even Charleston, South Carolina. Which direction from here was the Alford home
Okay.
that
So-
Roland was telling about?
Yeah. So this ridge goes right down toward the river. All right. And if you follow it right on down, about halfway between here and the river.
Okay.
What kind of house was it?
You know, I don't know. I don't recall. Any pictures I had seen of it, it looked pretty much like it was built like some of the others in the cove, but I haven't seen it, so I couldn't honestly speak to it.
Roland described it as a one-story house that was very wide with a wide front porch. He said it was beautiful. He remembered it.
Gotcha.
They wouldn't have done anything halfway, so it would have been a nice house for sure. And that's truly a testament to the Cove.
Yep.
I've got 4 generations of Browns and Meltons that lived and died right here. Not a lot of people just up and left this place, and you can probably see why. You're surrounded by friends and kinfolks. You got fertile farmland. You got a river, fish. Why would you leave?
That's why so many didn't.
Somebody with a lot of money coming in here starting to buy up land could collapse your entire family's history, you know?
Right.
So I've talked about this place being kind of to itself. Really, where we were earlier today by the gorges of the Flint is the one way in or out, and then there's another over toward Manchester, one way in or out. So back in the days, whenever someone would come in here, generally most folks in the Cove knew it, and that was before the telephone. They could get some word out that there's somebody, a stranger in the Cove. I've heard from some of my cousins that a guy came in here one time selling apples, had a truckload of apples, and he wanted to buy some whiskey with those apples. He wanted to buy some moonshine, and it turned out he was a revenuer. He was from the government. And so after that, and already kind of to themselves, people got sure shut down then. So after that kind of thing, unless you had any business over in here, you didn't really come in here.
Right.
You can understand that.
Absolutely.
They'd been fooled once. It wasn't gonna happen again.
All right, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed this this look into the Cove here. Like we talked about, kind of not a place where this tour would not have happened even just a few years ago. Kind of been hidden to itself.
Yeah, my dad was always very protective of not only the area but his family members, and so I think that he would understand why I think it needs to be treasured and appreciated.
Right.
And so, but yeah, hopefully he's not angry somewhere about that.
For sure. And I mean, there really is so much amazing history here that needs to be documented from everything that we've seen today. And I appreciate you for giving us the tour. Of course, Roland, who had to leave us early, for joining us. And any final thoughts on the Cove, or like what it means to you? What's special about it to you?
Well, it was special to me because I knew that anything that happened to me, if I fell off a bike, if I fell out of a tree, no matter where I was, I could go knock on the door and tell them I was Bobby Melton's son, and they were either going to be kin to me, or we'd go to the house next door where there was. So it was my special place growing up, and it'll always be that to me.